Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Ida and here are my favorite books of 2025. I know that I'm a little late and I also know that I haven't posted on here for like a year. I do have a good reason. My old computer kind of broke down so I couldn't edit videos anymore, and then it just took me a long time to buy a new computer. So hopefully I will start uploading videos more often this year. Fingers crossed. So that's also why this video is a little delayed and why I'm only just now talking about my favorite books of last year. But I had an amazing reading year. I read 147 books, I believe. Might be less. I also started listening to audiobooks, which was new for me, and that was a lot of fun. But I'm just gonna start. This is not gonna be in chronological order of like when I read them, and it's also not gonna be in order of like my ultimate favorite ones. I do think I have one that's like maybe the best one, and I'm gonna save that for last, just because this is maybe just like my favorite book that I've ever read. So one thing I've noticed is that I'm, first of all, really bad at describing a book before I've read it, but I'm also kind of bad at describing a book afterwards. And I feel like most people, they will maybe know these books anyways. Otherwise, they're probably gonna look up the description of the book. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail about that. I'm just gonna tell you my thoughts on these books instead. In 2025, I really wanted to read more biographies, and one of the books that I read in the beginning of the year was The House of My Mother by Shari Franke. And if you know about the whole 8 passengers thing, then this is the book written by the daughter, like the oldest daughter in the family. And I actually read this while I was sick with a fever. Like, I was super sick, but I still remember this book so vividly. And I just think she did an amazing job at talking about what it was like growing up in her family, also what kind of things went on behind the scenes. Just everything from before they started the channel until her mom's arrest and like the time after. It was just super interesting, and I think she did an amazing job, and she was like so well reflected, and there were so many things that just hit really hard, and I have so much respect for her. Highly recommend this. It's also a very quick read, but I think it's so important. Then in the beginning of the year, I read one of my maybe most anticipated books of the year, and that was Beg, Borrow or Steal by Sarah Adams. So Sarah Adams is one of my favorite romance authors. She has written this series called When in Rome. This was the 3rd book in the series. It came out in the beginning of last year, and I just loved it to bits and pieces. They're all, like all the books in the series are inspired by an Audrey Hepburn movie. This follows Emily, who is the oldest sister in this group of siblings, and like there are 4 books in total now, and they each follow one of their siblings. So this is Emily, the oldest girl, who's like type A, and I related to a lot of the things in the book, and I really enjoyed the love interest too. Jack is just amazing. Kind of enemies to lovers kind of romance. What I just really like about Sarah Adams' books are that they are just really heartwarming, but they also have like other aspects of them. It never gets super dark or anything like that. She just handles these topics with kind of an ease, which I really enjoy, because you feel like there is substance to these books, but you also just feel like so giddy while reading them. I remember there was at one point while reading this book that I actually had to like throw it down into my couch and like stand up and scream. That's basically just me reading Sarah Adams books. I'm just like so giddy, and I have to take several breaks, and I have to just stare into space, because otherwise I'm gonna scream from like feelings in a good way. I highly recommend this series if you haven't read them yet. Then I read Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. Grief is kind of the biggest topic in this book, so I would definitely warn you if that's something you have to be mindful of. It was really sad. Like, I absolutely cried while reading this, but it was also just really heartwarming. It's about this girl who has lost her best friend to cancer, and she's just dealing with a lot of grief, and a guy helps her kind of get her spirit back and kind of teaches her how to enjoy life again and get over this grief, because he's been through something as well. And then in return, she helps him to get a better bond with his family. And it's just a really heartwarming, beautiful story. It's very rare for me to actually cry while reading a book, but this one did it for me. And since I'm talking about books where I cried, this has got to be the most I've ever cried while reading a book. And that's Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book absolutely broke me. I was also sick while reading this. To be honest, I was sick a lot in 2025, but I had a really bad cold. So my nose was already super stuffy and my eyes were like sore. It's a queer love story about astronauts in the 1980s. And it's just in typical Taylor Jenkins Reid fashion that all the research done behind it is just so well done, and the characters are layered and you really root for them and they just feel like actual people. I feel like that's a common trait in her books. They just feel like actual historical books, which I love. And like, just read this book, but be warned, you might ugly sub. That's what I did. Something completely different that I read was Bride by Hazelwood, and I love this book so much. I have read most of her books by now, I believe, but I think this is my favorite, which is like crazy to say because it's a vampire werewolf love story, and it's like a marriage of convenience and kind of also like enemies to lovers. I don't know. It was just so fun and so enjoyable. I personally really like vampire stories, and this one was just kind of like so over the top with the vampire lore, which made it so entertaining. I bet you could find things to criticize about this book, maybe. I wasn't even trying. I was just having such a good time that I just thought about the book. Whenever I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about it. And it made me laugh out loud, and I just loved the characters together. It was so much fun. I just gave it 5 stars. No thoughts, it was just feelings. Then I also gave First Time Caller by B.K. Borrison 5 stars. I really enjoy her books in general, and this was a Sleepless in Seattle inspired love story, which I loved. It takes place in Baltimore instead though. It's about this radio host who ends up helping a woman find love. Maybe it's him. Maybe. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it's pretty obvious from the cover as well. But as you can see, like, this is just absolutely gorgeous. I freaking love this cover. It's stunning, and her next book is coming out next month, and I'm super excited about that. Like, I just really enjoyed it. It felt like a rom-com movie, but in a book version, which was amazing. Speaking of rom-com books, this one was the epitome of that, and that is If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This book, first of all, I was in the US when this book was released, and I was going to Vermont where this book takes place. So I had this idea that I would go to a small independent bookstore and buy this in Vermont, because I was like, that's meant to be. And then whenever I read this book, I'll be thinking about my time in Vermont. And I just couldn't find it. Like, it was sold out everywhere. They said like every time they ordered the book back, it would get sold out immediately. But on our last day, I think in Vermont, I managed to find it, and I was just so pleased. There was like one left. I grabbed that one, and then I read it when I came back home again, and it felt like being back in Vermont again. It's about this woman who has to take over her mom's inn because her mom unfortunately passes away, and she has to move to Vermont, and it's just not really something she ever saw herself doing, and she will need a lot of help in order to run the place the same way her mom did, and just like figure out how do you run an inn. And she gets help from her neighbor Cliff, who's a single dad with 2 daughters who are like one of them is a teenager and the other one is like, I don't remember, like 10, 12, something like that. But it's just about like their relationship together. This was such an atmospheric read. I felt like I was watching a movie inside my head while reading this. I feel like there was something about the descriptions that just made it so easy to picture. And I feel like I've watched this movie now. Like, a pretty thick romance book, but I wouldn't have minded if it was like 3 times longer. That's just how much I enjoyed it. I had such high hopes for this one, and I'm so happy to say that they completely lived up to it. And then I have a graphic novel that I've been so excited about, because it's a graphic novel of one of my all-time favorite books, and that is The Raven Boys. If you know, The Raven Boys is a book series written by Maggie Stiefvater. Now they've made a graphic novel over the book. I was really excited about this, but also very nervous, because I feel like you always have these like specific ideas of what do the scenes look like, what do the places, the characters, everything, what do they look like? And then if you see it and it's not the same, it just kind of ruins it. That wasn't my experience with this one. I felt like it was actually so true to the way I had imagined the different settings and the characters and like just everything. And I even like kind of like fangirled whenever one of the characters would show up. Like, it just felt like seeing your old friends. and I loved it. I can't wait for the others to be released as well, and I just think the art style too was like perfect for this book. If you've read The Raven Cycle, highly recommend reading the graphic novel too. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Then I also read One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. She is kind of known for writing these summer books, summer romances. This was her 4th book, I believe. And it's about Charlie, who's the older brother from the very first book. And I think this is my new personal favorite out of the 4. It was just a really cute love story. And I really enjoy books that takes place around like bodies of water, especially if it's a lake. And that's what it is in this book. And I really related to the main character. For that reason, I also found Charlie really charming because he's like a golden retriever, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, at least on the outside. And then there are like deeper layers to him, of course, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited for her next one this year. Then I have a very surprising one, I would say. I also bought this in the US and I didn't buy it until like one of the last days where I suddenly thought like, okay, maybe this book could be for me. But I've also been a little disappointed in this genre before, or just like in this type of book. And that is Nightshade by Autumn Woods, also the perfect author name. I don't think it's a dark romance. It's a little darker, like the topics are a little more severe, like someone's trying to kill our main character. So like I think that's dark. But it takes place at a university in Scotland and have these 2 characters who have a really rough background story, both of them. Really know like who we can trust. There's just this unease throughout the book and I was just at the edge of my seat, just wanting to continue, but at the same time I didn't want to finish the book. But when I went to bed at night, I was thinking about this. When I woke up, I was like, why am I so excited today? And then I would remember, oh, it's because I'm reading this book and I get the chance to continue it. It was just so entertaining. And again, like a common theme for me in some of these books, I think, are like, could you find things that aren't perfect? Absolutely, 100%. Do I care? Absolutely not. I just loved it. And I love the main male character. I would kill for Alex. He is just so great and they're just so cute together. And I can't wait for the 2nd book to come out this year. I don't know. Again, just vibes, feelings, no thoughts. We love it. And then finally, again, I feel like I had a lot of favorite books this year. And these are just some of my 5-star reads. Like I had way more than that. These were just like my favorites. In this genre, at least, it's the best book I've read. I think I actually talked about it last year. I do believe I managed to upload a video for my like January reads. Maybe. If I didn't, then this is the one. Educated by Tara Westover. This is a biography by a woman who grows up in Idaho, in like the countryside, with a father who's kind of a doomsday prepper. It's about her life growing up there and then her journey to see other parts of the country, to go to university and suddenly finding out that everything she thought was true might not be. And like she's just such an inspiring person. She gets a PhD as well. Like it's just wild to read about someone who grows up in such a secluded area and then has her worldview changed multiple times during her lifetime. And it's just so fascinating. And I actually felt like ill reading certain parts of this book, but at the same time I feel like it was so important. I borrowed it from the library, so I have no tabs or anything in this because I ended up buying a physical copy too, just because I want to lend it out to people. So I can't wait to reread it one day and annotate and just be mind blown again. It's just amazing. The writing, so beautiful and poetic, and it completely messed with my head, and I feel like I was a different person before I read it, and now I feel like I'm a better person because I read this book. Those were all of my favorite books of last year. I really hope that 2026 are going to bring a lot of 5-star reads too. I have a feeling they are. I'm already in the midst of one as well, so I can't wait to do a wrap up at the end of January and tell you all about it. I have so many 5-star predictions, actually just for this month alone. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a great reading year. So I would love to hear what your favorite books were of 2025. And then I hope you're doing really well and that you will stick around, and I'll see you next time. Bye!